Hey guys, it's Matthew. It's week 5 on Welcome for World FM, and today's subject is MTFs. I think it's a really interesting subject because, we know what we go through as guys. We don't know what the females go through on their side. Now, I don't know any MTFs personally. However, I do have a couple of acquaintances that I do have. One of my most recent friends that I've gotten to know over the last couple of months is actually MTF, and well, we've had some pretty interesting conversations and banter back and forth because we both have different ways of thinking. It's actually been really interesting. I've sort of gotten a bit of a sense from her as to what an MTF goes through, but I can't claim to know everything about it because obviously I don't. I do know that they're really cool. The couple of acquaintances that I do know are very nice. Now, I don't really know much about, the surgeries. I know a little bit of information, but, I'm kind of oblivious to, what they go through. This is a really tricky subject because I know that I don't know a lot about them. It's kind of different, I think, because, if you think about it, the MTFs, have something that we want that they want to get rid of. We have something we want to get rid of that they would love to have, so I was contemplating earlier, thinking to myself, it would be great if we could get rid of what we have and give it to them, and then get rid of what they have and give it to us. Okay, I know this is not a realistic way of thinking, but, if there was some kind of surgery, where we could do the exchange, and they could give, us what they don't want, we give them what we don't want, it would be a happy exchange and everything would be right with the world. Unfortunately, that's not exactly the best bet, but, if there was an exchange like that we could do, I think that'd be pretty neat. So yeah, I really, I'm kind of floundering as to, how to go about the subject. I know that their hormones are a lot different than we are. I know that they have, stuff to help, block testosterone and boost the estrogen. It's a lot harder for, estrogen to be boosted than testosterone, because testosterone is pretty, it's potent, it's out there, it's very, it creates, really, fast changes, really, noticeable changes a lot quicker than the estrogen does. It's more subtle, if you want to put it that way. I guess that's kind of the difference, a lot of, men are more out there and, more kind of in your face, and I guess that's sort of how the testosterone is. Estrogen, I know, isn't quite that way. It's more, subtle, but, it produces, what you need to, to have the, female stuff. See, I sort of, I don't know, like, the subject really got me thinking, because, I know that anybody who's trans goes through scrutiny on a day-to-day basis. We're not accepted for who we are. We're, just, we're really not taken seriously a lot of times in society. But with MTFs, I think that it's a lot more different. Because, I hate the fact that, guys are revered in a lot of ways more over women, and that they have, like, not really powers, but, they're, in society, guys are, a lot more, how do you say it? They're more looked upon as, the stronger types, and the women are, I don't want to say weak, because that's not what I mean at all. But, MTFs go through a lot of, probably the, you're a guy, why do you want to change over to a female type thing? You know, just like I'm sure a lot of us guys, you know, go over to, you know, well, you're a female, you know, why do you want to go over to a male? Well, it's not that we're going over to being another gender. You know, it's who we are, but I think a lot of, you know, MTFs go through a lot more scrutiny. I mean, if you went to or have gone to any Transgender Day of Remembrance ceremonies, I've gone to 2, one this year, one last year. Every name that they read off of, you know, trans, you know, individuals that we've lost to, you know, murder or suicide or anything like that, a lot of them are MTFs, and I think that in many ways, you know, they have it a lot harder than we do. I'm not saying us guys don't have it hard. We do. I know that firsthand, and I know that everybody else knows too. But I just observe in a lot of ways that, you know, MTFs have, you know, in a sense, a lot more struggles because, you know, they're going from a more dominant gender. Not that I'm saying men are more dominant. That's how they're viewed, yes, but not necessarily how they are. But, you know, they're going from, you know, gender that, you know, is kind of high on the totem pole, I guess, in a sense. You know, and they're, you know, changing their gender to being, you know, the women that they are. You know, and unfortunately, you know, I don't think a lot of people can kind of understand that. And I guess one of the other things, which was mentioned in, as part of the subject is, you know, would you date an MTF? Well, I don't discriminate against anybody. I'm not going to fall in love with or worry about, you know, who I'm falling in love with. You know, I've never dated an MTF. I definitely wouldn't rule it out either. I've been with, you know, with women. I've been with trans guys. You know, I'm not going to say, no, I'm not going to be with this certain type of person for whatever reason. You can't help who you fall in love with. You can't help, you know, who you like. You know, and you can't help that. So, you know, if an, you know, an MTF, you know, or, you know, were to come along and, you know, we had stuff in common, then, you know, definitely I would date them. You know, I'm not going to roll them out for any reason because, you know, that's, you know, that would be judging. That's just not me. But, yeah, I don't want to ramble on because I don't really have a lot to say about the subject because, like I said, I'm clueless as to a lot of this stuff. I am going to educate myself now, though, so this is a good topic for the week. Thank you for that one. But, yeah, I think that's about all I have to say for the subject right now. I don't know what week 6's topic is, but, you know, I'll look forward to doing that as well. I do apologize for my video being a little bit late. This has been really crazy. I'll probably do like a quick update video on my other channel. I'll put a link down in the sub bar or whatever if you want to take a look. But yeah, I'll try not to ramble on too long here, but I will see you guys next week, and that means everybody have a great Christmas, and hopefully we'll see you before the New Year.